Thank you, Bob. It's my honor to welcome Dr. Jeff Wright. He's actually here on campus at NC State. Just a little background on him. He is a manager for hardwood development for ArborGen. He received his PhD from Oxford University and following earlier degrees from Clemson University and Texas A&M. Jeff is recognized as a world leader in the development of forest plantations for financially successful processing into products such as pulp, paper, and lumber, as well as carbon and bioenergy. He has worked in more than 40 countries and is currently manager in sales, as I mentioned earlier, for ArborGen, where his work includes developing forest bioenergy plantations in the southern United States. He is also author and co-author of more than 20 publications in referred journals on eucalyptus, and also he is an adjunct faculty member in the Department of Biomaterials here at NC State University. So Jeff, I'm going to give you the reins here, and you can tell them all about the southeastern short rotation woody crop.
Helene, thank you very much for that introduction. And I will go through quite a bit of information on these slides. Look forward to chatting with or emailing some of the various participants afterwards with questions. My effort today with you will be to look at the demand side for bioenergy and then some of the supply options that would include forest residues, but particularly dedicated to hardwood plantations. And we know that the main driver for bioenergy in the world right now is the European Union, and one of the real situations that they have there is their desire to reduce greenhouse gases from 1990 levels, and obviously energy improvements, efficiencies, and increased energy from renewable sources. That includes biomass. For many people, the interest of the Europeans is somewhat why is this underway? If you follow that cursor there, you look at CO2 emissions from hard coal, oil, or natural gas. They are 10 to 20-fold higher than that of woody biomass, either from wood pellets or from wood chips. So this is the reason that the Europeans have such an interest in going to renewable energy, and particularly woody biomasses, to reduce, and this is a life cycle emission analysis, the impact of carbon from energy generation. One particular country that I'll focus on, the UK, they have set a target of 50 million dry tons of biomass is what they will require. 30 million tons of that would be imported. A large part of that, as we know, would be from wood pellet facilities, particularly in the southern United States. They would also suggest that up to 20 million dry tons a year could come from domestic biomass. That might be difficult, as many of us who know the UK fairly well, and the UK Forestry Commission says about 2 million tons by 2020 would be possible in bioenergy forest plantations. So all we'll say is of that 50 million, 30 million by their numbers would be imported. Probably an additional part of that 20 million would also be imported. Again, in order to have a bioenergy potential in the UK, much of that wood is going to come from the southern United States. A large number of projects are currently underway in the southern United States, and I would draw to your attention to this website, forest.com, and again, they're April 2013. They're looking at about 156 projects that have been announced. We know that not all of those projects will be completed, but if they all were, the demand suggested would be new demand, pulpwood size material, of about 64 million tons. Even if only half of that were to come about, 32 million tons, in the current market of 125 million tons of pulpwood size material, that's going to represent an increase in demand of about 25% over the wood harvest that's currently underway in the South. Clearly, we're going to need to find that wood and grow it on a sustainable basis. Number of studies will have shown or tried to show that forest harvest residues are going to be a prime consideration to fill this gap of woody material required. And that's certainly true as long as you're the first one on the site to have access to that material. So you look at a site like this, yes, there was woody residue there following harvest, but all of that residue that was commercially available has already left the site and gone on in a truck likely to an energy facility someplace. So what I would contend is that the bioenergy availability on many log sites is actually zero. That wood has already left the site and gone on to a higher and better use. It's not necessarily going to be available. Many would challenge us to suggest that the woody residue left over after residential areas could be available. Also, there are some further logging site waste. What you have to contend with on these: dirt content, moisture content, very variable material, and again, not exactly what you would want to be taking in to try to make wood pellets for export to Europe. You could use this material for energy. It will be expensive to generate and move to a site. It will be very high in ash content and high in water. Again, we would contend neither one of these is a particularly desirable source for an industrial facility. And I'll belabor the forest residue issue just with one last slide. In the state of Florida, again, data published in 2008, so the actual numbers for this came from 06 and 07, probably a higher harvesting level than we see today. Average total harvest was about 68 tons per acre. 15 tons would be residual following harvest. 330,000 acres were harvested, of which about 190,000 were clear cut. Just scroll down here, cut to the chase. For a 50 megawatt facility that would require 600,000 green tons per year, if 60% of the residuals were recoverable, you'd need to take 67 acres of the clear cut to provide woody biomass from residuals for one facility, and that would cover 1/3 of the state of Florida, given 191,000 acres that were clear cut. Certainly there are opportunities to go after this residual material. I don't deny that at all. But to provide wood for a certain facility size, we really think you're going to have renewable plantations, particularly hardwood. I'm going to go through all of these, but my lines are just generally drawn there. Hybrid poplar, sweet gum cottonwood, hybrid poplar, sweet gum cottonwood, sweet gum eucalyptus, and eucalyptus. Obviously, as we move from south to north, more temperate species in the northern part, such as hybrid poplar, more tropical, subtropical species such as eucalyptus will work in South Florida. I'm going to go over each one of these individually. Cottonwood and hybrid poplar, I'm going to focus at a very high level. I'm not going to get into silviculture on this, but the growth rate of cottonwood and hybrid poplar can be 3 to 20 green tons per acre per year on a 10-year rotation. That's not a typographical error. If you have poor quality clones, poor site management, poor soil quality, you'll probably get something like 3 tons per acre per year. If you have high quality soils, high quality clones, and excellent management, you could achieve something on that 20 green tons per acre per year basis. There's a lot of trials that have recently been put in. The ones indicated here follow some of the data for these trials follow. There are about 30 of these different clonal trials spread throughout the South, both as individual clones as well as in blocks. And the objective from these 422 varietals is actually to pare that number down to those that are successful either on specific sites or across a range of sites, and to evaluate wood quality. Again, just one of the selected trees in the trials at age 4.5 years at Eastover, South Carolina. That's not too far from Columbia, South Carolina, for some not familiar with the southeastern United States. Tremendous variability in these 422 varieties across states. I'll just draw your attention to the oldest trial at Floyd, Georgia, not far from Augusta. Average height 56 feet. The shortest clone averaged 41 feet. The tallest almost 70. Same type of range in diameter breast height, from 6 inches on average. The smallest clone 3.5, the tallest over 8. So again, what one would be looking for are to find these replicated examples of the better growing clones and then bring those into the system on a commercial basis. That's what these trials are intended to to achieve. Again, just more of a graphic of control that's actually been planted in the southern United States for many, many years, and then there are some clones that exceed it in volume per tree, by 25 or 30%. So there's still tremendous opportunity for genetic improvement, with cottonwood and hybrid poplar. One of the factors that's always been mentioned with cottonwood hybrid poplar, moisture content and wood-specific gravity. So on a subset of those trials, and again taking the top 30 growing varietals or clones, some wood density and wood moisture content work was undertaken. The lowest wood density 0.29 and the highest wood density 0.40. Again, these are the best growing clones. Again, you see tremendous variability there. One of the things we'd like to expand further with this type of trial, we now know growth rate, wood density, and moisture content. We'd like to evaluate the sugar content of these or other factors that would influence ethanol, drop-in biofuel, or even wood pellet basic consumption of burning ash content, things like that. BTU value would be extremely knowledgeable, so one could then have a further knowledge as regards wood density, but also the volume of the better performers across a range of sites. Sweet gum, liquid ambar, Styraca flua, native species to the southeastern United States. Productivity range of that a little bit lower than hybrid poplar and cottonwood. 6 to 10 green tons per acre per year, probably a rotation of 12 to 14 years. Again, a photo here of a 14-year-old stand growing at about 9 tons per acre per year. One exciting factor with sweet gum is the ability to cross the native species to United States. Liquid ambar Styraca flua also goes into Mexico and Central America, as far south as Nicaragua. But to cross it with liquid ambar formosana, again, liquid ambar formosana is one of those native sweet gum trees to the Far East, often used as an ornamental tree, as seen here in the Botanical Garden in Madrid. When crossed with our domestic sweet gum, there's some tremendous opportunities. Again, on the right-hand side of the screen is a selected hybrid clone that's growing extremely well compared to a clone, also the hybrid, not growing very well. The row in the middle there was this particular clone that we harvested to collect cuttings from to begin the vegetative propagation. Again, it was a superior one. You're looking at 20% to 40% better growth rate, and at least the wood samples that have been obtained so far, 20% higher wood density. So a lot of potential in a hybrid sweet gum clone for the southeastern United States. Much of the rest of my talk will be spent on eucalyptus. One of the species that we work on a seedling basis, Eucalyptus benthami. If I call it E-ben, just remember that's Eucalyptus benthami. Good growth rate of that particular species, 9 to 16 green tons per acre per year on a pulpwood rotation. Wood-specific gravity, 0.46 to 0.52, so both faster growing as well as higher wood density than either cottonwood or hybrid poplar or sweet gum. One of the difficulties for that is freeze damage. Takes a great deal of care as to where to plant that species, again, on a commercial basis. Some general guidelines are given by these lines. As you'll see, the finger growing across the blue line above that is not recommended. This middle portion here through the lower Gulf states would be have very low risk, and then a fairly safe zone throughout much of Florida. There's quite a change when you go, as with any tree species, when you go from the native stand to the planted stand. And this is Eucalyptus benthami in Australia, and these would be plantations of benthami in Australia. When you then move that material to an exotic environment, such as it would be in the United States, 6-year-old benthami, one of the first plantations established, growing near Columbia, South Carolina, probably at that range of 7 to 8 green tons per acre per year, but still a very good start. As some of those stands are older, this was a seed production area close to Walterboro, South Carolina. Again, southern South Carolina, not too far off Interstate 95, demonstrating two things. One, the trees do grow very large, and there was some seed produced out of this particular stand, but that they do have enough resistance to frost to make large commercial trees. A tremendous amount of planting, progeny testing, provenance testing is underway. Georgiana, Alabama, not too far from Montgomery, Eucalyptus benthami at 20 months of age. A particular standard, Jackson, Alabama, when this was taken, it was 3 years old. It's my understanding that now, a couple of years later, those trees have actually been harvested and sent to a pulp mill. Again, one of the benefits of this tree, so it has sufficient frost resistance for the zone of interest, grows very straight, you can debark it, and like many eucalypts, has desirable wood properties. In this case, particularly for for pulping, in spite of the fact that our topic today is bioenergy, but it did go in for pulping on that particular site. One key element with Eucalyptus benthami, as well as with any tree species that's going to be for commercial plantations, is the ability to produce seed, whether that's going to be in a grafted seed orchard or a progeny provenance test that's going to be converted into a seedling seed orchard. In order to improve the species, and a domestic seed source is highly desirable. For any of these eucalyptus species, sweet gum, cottonwood hybrid, poplar, the ability to go to clones as quickly as possible is very important. It allows a lot of selection for resistance to disease, to frost, ability to coppice, as well as wood properties and growth rate. One of the ways to do this with a species like Eucalyptus camaldulensis is to go into a trial or initial plantation, select trees, in this case a 2-year-old tree. It was girdled at the base, and the cuttings were taken off of there, were rooted, and new clones were started. They were tested, and ultimately you wind up with a plantation. These Eucalyptus camaldulensis, that happens to be in Texas. These trees were 3 years old at the time of the photograph. So again, moving to a clone is extremely important. To do so as quickly as possible and to test it adequately is a requirement. In South Florida, one of the aspects of all these hardwood species is their ability to coppice. One of my last slides will look at a financial analysis of coppice in eucalypts. But if you think that most of the cost of the plantation go into seedling, site preparation, planting, and that early management, when it's harvested and it then grows back, you do not input site preparation, you do not buy seedlings, you do not plant seedlings. It grows back. There are still costs incurred, but the financial returns from that are extremely interesting for a multitude of investors. Again, these eucalyptus in South Florida can grow as fast as many sites in Brazil, South Africa, Indonesia, other parts of the world where fast growth has been exhibited. And ultimately, one moves to sites where the growth rate is sufficient. 14 dry short tons per acre per year at this particular site, not too far out of Sebring, Florida, let's say 60 miles south of Orlando. And on a particular site like that, remember that when it's 2 years of age and you've got 50, 55 standing green tons, you let it grow a couple more years and it's at 120. So the productivity of these trees do continue to grow. At this moment, those trees are about 8 years old, and they have flattened off the curve a little bit, but still continuing to add a lot of volume for each additional year that they're left on the site. Wood properties are extremely important, whether that would be for pulp or certainly for bioenergy. And one of the reasons, this quick slide, and I'd like to thank Ronald Gonzalez to his PhD here at NC State University. If you have low carbohydrate level, that is a very good system for electricity or for a BTU value. With high carbohydrate levels, you make a lot more ethanol out of that wood. What that implies, doesn't imply it, what it means is that for the wood system for bioenergy that you wish to use, the clone that you would select based on wood properties would be very different for different uses, whether that's for electricity or for ethanol. Wood properties are extremely important. Some of the first studies ever published on wood pellets of eucalyptus, again, Adrian Paragli, also a PhD student at North Carolina State University. Several opportunities exist for wood pellets from eucalypts, both in the southern United States as well as in South America and other locations throughout the world. So a number of uses of eucalypts are already there. I'd like to acknowledge Daniel Saloni for this particular slide. Many of us can remember that only a few years ago there was probably about 100,000 tons of wood pellets produced in the South. This number of 3.1 million is from the states indicated here. This does not include Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, so the number would be higher. So in the U.S. South, we've gone from a production of 100,000 tons in 2004-2005, my estimate, to more than 3 million tons. Again, using existing wood resources, largely pine, but also a number of pellet producers are considering the use of fast-growing hardwood species for their pellet mix. Again, mostly for export to the EU. We feel we're going to have additional resources. You look at total demand in 2020 of 45 million metric tons of wood pellets. Current production levels, both in place as well as being built, 35 million. A lot of increase in production will have to take place to meet those demand levels, and fast-growing woody plantations are going to help provide the feedstock for some of those facilities. Harvesting, I'm going to go through fairly rapidly. We have gone a long way in harvesting since some of the initial biomass efforts were undertaken. But it's still safe to say that this machine will not harvest trees of that size. Extremely important at the time the plantation is in concept, let alone established, that you think about what the harvesting machinery will be to undertake the harvest for both the product required and then the size of the tree that you'll be harvesting. Thankfully, there's been quite a lot of work done. 18-month-old harvesting. Again, I mentioned the ability of the tree to coppice following harvesting. Extremely important. You have to have the right machinery, the right kind of clone that goes in order for that system to harvest. But you can certainly see an abundance of coppice on that stump, which would make the next make the next stand commercially viable. Just a couple of other systems. These are not on eucalypts. These are with hybrid poplar in upstate New York, but there are several other systems of harvesting that will work on eucalypts. Both of these have been tried in the South with success on fast-growing eucalyptus plantations in the state of Florida. Again, as promised, the rate of returns for eucalypts. There's a couple of things. Again, this was a publication in Bioresources. I'd like to acknowledge the senior author of the study, Derek Doherty. Again, our prognostication is based on actual figures from the field. All cost in that first rotation of about $500, 90 tons at harvest. I think that was a 7-year rotation. These values should be of interest for the landowner. To have made a 6% rate of return, stumpage needs to be $9 or greater. Let's just bear that in mind. As you go through the first and second coppice rotation, your cost per acre is tremendously reduced. As I said earlier, no site preparation, no seedlings, no planting. That cost is actually, land tax, management fee, fertilization, herbicide. Look at this, the growth rate is slightly higher on that first coppice rotation, and at 6% for a landowner to make 6% on their return there, $3.42. So for anyone trying to do a financial analysis, coppice with these eucalypts and these other hardwood species, you need to take these factors into consideration. Probably a little different than many forestry projects are analyzed at this time. When I wrap all that up using Forest to Market from December 2012 Q4 data, $19.36 a delivered ton for wood fuel. You look at the plantation growing costs that I've given here, cut, chip, and haul of $14 to $18, and you'd be at a delivered price of about $18 to $28. So again, some of these prices would be higher than the quoted price from Forest to Market. But remember, that's a large average over many truckloads of material. So again, we feel that the growing cost and the harvesting cost can get a landowner within the range that's already being exhibited for these for wood fuel that's currently coming from pulpwood chipping. I've enjoyed making the presentation this afternoon. Would look forward to questions from the audience either now or at some point in the future. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Jeff. We're actually going to hold questions to the end just to make sure that we are able to get the second presentation in. So if anyone has any questions, please type those in the chat window, and we'll be sure to get you or answer those questions at the end or send you an email with a response. So I'd like to introduce the next speaker. This is going to be Dr. Ribera, and he is actually at Texas A&M University. and he'll be covering the energy cane. So this is totally different. We're going to a different subject matter here. So we covered short rotation woody crops. I thought you provided a great overview, Jeff, on how much potential tons per acre you should expect, how this changes over the landscape for the southeast, and the types of species that someone may be interested in growing, and also to keep in mind your end result. Would you rather have selling it for biopower or for biofuels? So Dr. Ribera received his Bachelor's of Science and Master's of Science from University of Arkansas and his PhD from Texas A&M University. And these were both in agricultural economics with an emphasis in risk analysis, simulation, and econometric modeling. He is currently Associate Professor in Extension Economist for the Department of Agriculture Economics of the Texas A&M University System, and he's also serves as an International Programs Coordinator for the Agricultural and Food Policy Center. His research expertise includes applying risk analysis, econometric tools on business management, and economic analysis. He's currently doing feasibility studies for biofuels using different feedstock, carbon sequestration, and international market integrations. And just to add in there, he's worked for several feasibility analysis studies on renewable energy, and with a focus on ethanol and biodiesel production. And just wanted to add in there that he is working with private industry and for using Viscane and energy cane. And it's going to be a great presentation. I'd like to introduce you, and I'm going to go ahead and give the reins to Luis.
Thank you, Helene. Appreciate the introduction. Appreciate the opportunity to be here presenting partial results of a 4-year project. We're in the year and a half right now, but this project started back in 2007, trying to develop material with these energy canes, and also a mix of mid-cane and energy cane, which is called mid-cane, and trying to take it to the limit and see how much yield we can get from them. And we're based in deep South Texas, and so we can have year-round production. And that's what it's I think makes it key for yearly or having feedstock supplied to the plant year-round. And we're working with, again, with mid-cane, energy cane, and some other crops, so we can have as close as 12 months out of the year of supply. And my presentation is it's different than Jeff's presentation. I'm an economist, so you're basically going to see the world through an economist's eye, and we're going to present a lot of numbers. I'm going to try to explain a little bit on the economic part, but it's mainly take it all the way to the bottom line. So researchers or industry, different areas, they understand and see what would it cost to produce a gallon of any biofuel. All right. First, basically, our job is to work with all sort of scientists, from the plant genesis to the crop production guys or cropping systems guy, to the soil and crop sciences, to the irrigation engineers, so we can put together in what we call the bioenergy supply chain system. So here in South Texas, we have the plant material, which is developed by our plant breeders, and we're also working on the cropping systems right now. We started again back in 2007, so we have some information on yield, but for small plots. And the second part of the project is to take it to a semi-commercial scale and see how our plant material does, given the more area planting of these crops. And so then we also look into the harvesting part, which is very important. If you want to have feedstock supplied to the plant 12 months out of the year, you need to have a good schedule. and you also have to figure out how much you're going to have to charge for transportation, harvesting, et cetera, and then take it to the conversion. What type of conversion technology you're going to use. We develop a model along with one of my colleagues, and he's also attending today, probably making sure that I don't tell you any lies. But Dr. Juan Monge, he's another ag economist that helped develop this model, and we have to start from scratch and try to work with everybody here at the center and another 2 centers in South Texas to develop our economic model, which goes into the production part and harvesting, transportation, and then converting into a biofuel, depending on what conversion pathway you want to take it. Okay, the next slide basically shows what type of material or what type of crops we're using, and this is the only place in Texas that produce sugarcane on a commercial scale. So we have the know-how. We've been working with sugar producers for a while already, and because of that project that we started in 2007, we got some funding to work on energy cane, which is basically higher in fiber and less in soluble sugar. The results have been great. I think the material that we have right now, and that I think is the key to make these things work, is the amount of yield that we can get per acre basis. And right now, out of a 3-year study on these small plots, we get an average of 17 dry tons per acre, compared to sugarcane or commercial sugarcane production down here, which is about 10 dry tons. So that increase of 70% makes the whole model work and gives you a pretty good idea of the level of returns or the probability of success for a plant if they decided to build one down here. It has potential of low input requirement because. And I mentioned the 2010 because it's the same private company that is supporting this second part. But we've been receiving funds from other private industries and also federal funds and internal Texas A&M funds that are working in different areas. And this one of the things that we're working on is having a low input plants, and we're working with GMOs as well on energy canes. And there's some that are just, again, they're starting to come out, but they look very good, and some are very drought tolerant, salt tolerant, and cold tolerant. So that basically gives the potential of trying to keep moving higher north from where we are. So I think it's a really good potential. That's what I mentioned, a wide geographic adaptability. And compared to sugarcane, again, it has higher fiber content and low soluble sugars. With again, depending on the conversion process that you're going to use, if it's for biomass, you will like that high fiber and less soluble sugar. The 2 feedstocks that we use for the results of this presentation, it's energy cane, which we down here can harvest from October to April, and possibly May when we extend it a little bit. And the other crop, in order to have 12 months out of the year production or supply of feedstock, will be either sorghum or napier grasses. For the numbers that I'm presenting, because we have 4 or 5 different conversion processes and a combination for other crops. So I'm just going to use 2 conversion processes and 2 crops. One will be the energy cane, and the other will be the sweet sorghum. We use a production cost budgets from extension with our knowledge of sugar cane down here in District 12 in Texas, and with our partners in Mississippi State, which have done a lot of work on sweet sorghum. This year we're updating these 2 budgets to reflect the varieties that we're using here and the inputs that are putting both for energy cane and sweet sorghum. A big concern, and again, because of our experience with how the sugarcane industry works down here is how you're going to deal with producers, level of returns that you're going to have, and to entice them to produce these new varieties and this new industry. And the harvesting and holding, again, because of our experience with the sugar house down here, we use their numbers until we can use a more specific rate, given the material and given the information that we're collecting right now. Sorry, it takes a while to move, but there's like a little lag in my computer, so I can't see what the next slide is until about 5 seconds after I click next. But like I mentioned, we have information on energy cane. We have incremental plus for 3 years, so we use that data. All of our analysis are stochastic, meaning adding production risk and price risk into our models. So instead of only using the average, we use the whole distribution of the data that we have available, which for agricultural production, you know that the average just gives you so much information. You need to have the whole distribution, and also trying to take into account you have a drought, or if you have a wet year, etc., etc. So that's why we use distribution, so we can better understand the risk associated of producing this feedstock. The parameters for the feedstock that we have for our model, again, you know, we're using energy cane and sweet sorghum. We use, of course, dry short tons per acre. The production cost, if you see, the energy cane is a lot more expensive than sweet sorghum, and the main reason is that the cane, energy cane, is not produced using planting seeds. You have to basically chop the stalks and plant the stalks, and here we plant them manually. So that's an increase in your cost of production. But you plant it once and you harvest it 5 times. So you plant it for 1 year, and that will be your plant year, and then you got 4 ratoon years. So then you have to plant every 6 years. Return to growers, we set it at 20%. The fixed harvest and hauling costs, again, we only have information for the energy cane on that because that's what the sugar house charges, and we try to keep it like that because that's the way it works here, and the sugar house is in charge of all harvesting of the sugar cane, and we believe that that's the way to do it ideally, because if you want to have 12 months out of the year, you need to schedule when you're going to harvest, which field and which producer, etc., etc. The 2 conversion processes will be hydrolysis and gasification, and here's the need. What are the needs in terms of dry short tons per year? I believe that for gasification we'll have 61 million gallons produced per year, and for the gasification we are 45. But using those parameters, the expected feedstock cost will be $58 dry short ton for energy cane, and 51 for sweet sorghum. As I mentioned before, the agreement with the farmers is very important, because ideally the way this will work will be for a plant, and a biofuel plant, to subcontract producers and let them produce, because they have all the machinery and the land. And but you know, the producers already know what type of crops they produce. They know the risk associated with it. They also know the price. You know, the farmers don't know what these new varieties is, how to grow it, and there's no historical data on prices or actually a market price. So there has to be some sort of contract provided for producers to be enticed to produce these crops, and as well as crop insurance, because that's very important, and no producer will produce almost any crop except fruit and, maybe fruits and vegetables without a crop insurance. But anyways, I think crop insurance is very important. This is just information about the biofuel conversion plant, where we got the information. The National Renewable Energy Lab has a lot of information, and we've leaned very heavily on them, and just a couple of parameters that we use for the conversion process, the conversion technologies for both hydrolysis and gasification. The plant parameters, you have it as an annual plant capacity of either gallons or millions BTU, average biofuel yield from feedstock. We have also byproduct credit, which is very important for this to work, to make sense. We also divide the fixed. We have the fixed capital investment as an equity as a loan. It's 60% raise money, and then the 40% borrowed. And again, we have a stochastic ethanol and byproduct prices. And in the case of gasification, the end product will be gasoline. For hydrolysis, the end product will be ethanol. And the reason that we choose those two is because we have, to go around the blending wall of ethanol into the fuel system. So one will be producing ethanol, and the other will be basically a drop in gasoline production. Just a few more parameters on this. I'm just going to go straight to the results to save some time. 61 million in production for ethanol, 42 million on gasoline, and 70% will be energy cane, 30% with seed sorghum. So that basically is going to have a 12-month of the year supply of this feedstock. You can see also the total capital investment for hydrolysis is cheaper than gasification. That's going to play a major role into the bottom line of how much it's going to cost you to produce a gallon. And then the last line over there shows you a total cash cost of $2.14 for hydrolysis for a gallon of ethanol using hydrolysis, and $2.61 for gasoline. Numbers in parentheses are dollars in million BTUs, and that's also just to compare apples and apples, because gasoline has more energy content than ethanol. So that's what we also can produce diesel or biodiesel. So in order to compare apple to apples, we also have it both in dollars per gallon and also in BTUs. As I mentioned before, on this new graph, the cost, because we use risk or production risk and also price risk for inputs and byproducts, and we're going to have a distribution around the feedstock cost. For example, for hydrolysis, which is your black line there, black PDF, it shows you that on average you're going to have a feedstock cost about 80 cents, and for gasification will be 92 cents. But it could go all the way for hydrolysis all the way down to 65 or as much as $1.05, depending on the production that you get and depending on the price also of your byproducts. The total cash cost with byproduct credit will be on your right graph. Again, hydrolysis is the black one, gasification is the red one. As you can see, for hydrolysis, it will be about $2.08, and compared to about $2.50 something cents, including byproducts. The next graph is going to itemize how much is going to cost you each of the different categories and how much is going to add up to the total cost. For the cash cost, if you look at hydrolysis, you got your 80 cents that is going to cost you your feedstock, then you're going to have your operating 70 cents, and then your interest and dividends will be 33 and 31. As you can see on gasification, because you're producing gasoline, your output is a lot lower. Your cost of the feedstock is going to be higher, and also because of your capital expenses that are higher, you're going to see a higher numbers or higher values for your interest and dividends. So your cost of production is going to be higher for gasification on dollars per gallon. That is dollars per gallon. That's total cash cost. On the right-hand side, you're going to see the expected cash cost with different credits added to it, both for hydrolysis and gasification. The first one is the cash cost will be $2.14. If you add the byproduct credit, selling the byproduct, which is mainly electricity, it's going to drop about 9 cents. Then if you include the RIN for biomass-based biofuels, that's going to drop about 69 cents to $1.36. And then if you include also the blender's credit for biomass-based biofuels, it's going to drop another $1.01. So if you include all those credits, you can get for hydrolysis for about 35 cents a gallon. However, the last two are policy-based. If the RIN market goes down, and also if the blender's credit doesn't get ratified every year, then you're going to go back to your $2.05. For gasification, and you can see the same thing. It starts at 261 and will go to 37 cents with the byproduct credit of a cost of $2.42. So again, we'll make sure that if all those credits get taken into place, you can have a really low cost. But the last two there are policy based. So plants or producers have to be aware of that. The next slide also wants to show the increase in your bottom line if you need to increase the level of return to the producers. We set it at 20% over cost of production, that will be the return. But because of high commodity prices, that could be increased to 30, 40, 50%. So how does that increase on the what you have to pay producers over their cost of production? How is that going to affect the bottom line? And here I just use hydrolysis, and it just shows you there's going to be basically a 4 cents for every 10% increase of returns over their cost of production. There's going to be about a 4 cents added to your total cost with byproduct for hydrolysis. And then my last slide, I just want to show a little bit of a sensitivity analysis using, again, our feedstock in this case for both either gasification or hydrolysis is energy cane with sweet sorghum 12 months out of the year. If you look at what we have right now on the left-hand side, which is your hydrolysis, using ethanol prices by the AEO for reference price, we're at 17. We're at 17 on the horizontal axis. We have energy cane yields, dry short per ton, and we hold sweet sorghum tonnage constant. And also on the y-axis we have ethanol yield, gallons per dry ton. Right now we're using 17 dry short tons per acre with 70 gallons per dry ton. Using those two will give us a 91% chance of success. Our definition of chance of success is when your net present value our definition is basically if 95% of the time your net present value is higher than zero. If your net present value is higher than zero, that means it's a good business. It's a good you're going to be profitable. For us, because we're using stochastic values and we're using distribution, our definition will be if 95% of the time, have a 95% chance of having a net present value higher than zero. When you look at 17 and 70, it gives you a 91. It's not our bio definition of success, but you only have about 9% chance of negative net present value. Why does it look so good? And the main difference is the yield. When you look at commercial sugarcane production that we have right here, it's 10 dry short tons per acre. Here, the new material that we have increases by 70% and takes us to about 17 dry short. So it goes from if you go from 10 dry short and 70 conversion, we get 32% increase. 32% chance of economic success. Of that 70% increase in yield will take you to 91. So basically very close to make it profitable without any of the policy credits. Just your cost of production plus your byproducts credits. Now in the gasification, we're a little farther down. When you have 17 dried short ton per acre in yield and 61 gallons per dry ton in conversion, we're still at 42. So there's still quite a long way to go on this one to produce gasoline. Again, to don't have to worry about the blending wall. But for hydrolysis, I think we're coming very close, and our plant breeder says that there's some new varieties coming along that is going to increase. Is going to push it more into the 18, 19 dry short ton per acre. So I think on the hydrolysis we're in pretty good shape. It's very encouraging, and we're going to keep working on gasification. One thing on gasification though is that there's a high capital expenses there. So if we can reduce the capital expenses on the biofuel plant, then it will be it will have a higher chance of probability of success. And I know I went over a few minutes of my time, but I just want to make sure that you understand the results. Again, you're looking at these results with the economy side, so with different numbers, and we understand numbers as well. There is my contact information, my email, and my phone number. If you have any questions, anything that it wasn't very clear, please send me an email, call me. I'll be glad to answer any questions. And with that, Helena, I pass it on back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. Nice look at actual cost of farmers, if they would start to grow this energy cane in that group. So very interesting. I guess we have room for one question. If anyone would like to type one in the chat window, we could take those. Okay, well, I guess I'll turn it over to Bob, because he's going to take everyone through the continuing education credits and what you need to do to get those. But I would like to thank both speakers. Appreciate the overlook of different types of crops that could be grown in the Southeast, both agriculture and forestry based. So thank you so much. And if you'd like, there's a website there, www.se-ibis.org. There's actually a list of all the topics that I'm trying to explore, and I know that Dr. Ribera talked a lot about hydrolysis and gasification. I do plan on having another webinar that will cover technologies that our biofuels industry is looking at to produce biofuels for the nation. And our next webinar will be August 21st, and I'll have Matt Langholtz and Lawrence Eaton from Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and they'll be covering where these dedicated bioenergy crops will be grown, and primarily looking at land result changes from the billion-ton study. So I hope you guys tune in there, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me and send me an email or give me a call here at NC State Extension Forestry. Thank you.